The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is one of the most powerful economic systems in the economic G20. As a country, it's the biggest oil producer in the world. On the eastern coast of the kingdom, opposite to Iran and close to Bahrain, Al-Qatif province is located. The majority of its population adopts the Shia Islamic doctrine. AlAwamiyah is a village on the north of Al-Qatif. It is famous for agriculture thanks to its fertile soil. And it's also famous for fishing because of its proximity to the Arabian Gulf. At the time, AlAwamiyah was quiet, safe, and known for its sports, social, cultural, and artistic activities. But suddenly, a dark cloud began to loom over the village, polluting its serenity, making it a scene for terrorist attacks. It started with demonstrations supporting the Bahraini Shias due to the chaos that swept Bahrain just 100 kilometers from the village. As if out of nowhere, some sheikhs in AlAwamiyah began igniting sectarian strife, creating an imaginary conflict based on differences between the Sunni and Shia sects, something which has never before existed in Saudi Arabia.
أحداث 2011 هي امتداد طبيعي لأحداث فبراير 2009 في المدينة المنورة. كانت هناك محاولات مبكرة لإعادة إنتاج الثورة اللي هي امتداد طبيعي للثورة الخميني أو ما يسمونه الثورة الشيعية الكبرى.
In February 2009, clashes aroused between Shia and Sunni in Al-Madinah city, as more than 1,000 Shiites tried to enter the graves of al-Baqiyah, where the relatives of Prophet Muhammad, Messenger of Islam, are buried in the non-allotted time. In Bahrain, Shias account for half of the population. In February 2011, they stirred riots and chaos, aiming to destabilize the country. An attempt to overthrow the regime, an opportunity which this man, Nimr al-Nimr, seized in order to escalate sectarian incitement between Sunnis and Shias in Saudi Arabia and to clash with the security forces. Was this a mere coincidence? The story began in Iran, specifically after 1979 and the success of Al-Khomeini's revolution. This attracted a large number of young Shias from various Arab countries to join Shia sect religious schools known as Al-Hawzat. Their declared goal was to propagate the teachings of the Shia doctrine, but they were really aimed at exporting Al-Khomeini's revolution to the whole world and at composing armed militias to control all the Arab countries. That was to be accomplished through a plan called Madawiyah, relative to a savior hero called Imam al-Mahdi, believed to emerge at a certain time to grant triumph to the Islamic nation once again. Al-Khomeini exported his ideas fundamentally through raising the issue of Shia oppression in various Arab countries.
فبهذا المنطلق وبهذه الفكرة الدينية استطاع الخطاب السياسي الديني الشيعي أن يصنع أفراد متحفزين وجاهزين عسكريا ومدربين من أجل نصرة المهدي وطبعا لو نظرت إلى أرض الواقع ما يحدث من عمليات دموية يرتكبها الميليشيات في العراق وسوريا واليمن وهذه المناطق، اللي نشوف أن هي مو جالسة أبدا تخدم القضية المهدوية، هي جالسة تقتل الإنسان. قتلت العراقيين وقتلت السوريين وقتلت أيضا اليمنيين، ولكن تنطلي الخدعة يوم بعد يوم بعد يوم على البسطاء.
Nimr al-Nimr received his religious education and military training in Qum, a city in Iran. It is worth mentioning that he was a colleague of Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's leader in Lebanon, and Hussein Badr al-Din al-Houthi, the leader of Ansar Allah movement in Yemen. Nimr was taught by Muhammad al-Madrasi, one of the most dangerous Shia terrorists, an Iraqi of Iranian origin who had been sentenced to death by Saddam Hussein on charges of terrorism. Fleeing to Iran after the outbreak of the First Gulf War, Nimr remained away from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for more than 15 years. But before returning to it in 1994, after a royal amnesty. A phase of the Iranian plan began to emerge when Hezbollah was founded in Lebanon in 1982. Hezbollah al-Hijaz was also founded in Saudi Arabia under the leadership of Ahmad Ibrahim al-Mughassil in 1987. And finally, the Ansar Allah movement led by Hussein Badr al-Din al-Houthi in Yemen in 1994.
Hezbollah al-Hijaz begins in the 1980s with the efforts of Iran to build proxies. Interestingly enough, it's the same time that Hezbollah in Lebanon begins to grow under the tutelage of Iran, and indeed there are similarities. And in fact, Hezbollah Hijaz is connected to Hezbollah in Lebanon. So this is a local proxy recruited by Iran, supported by Hezbollah.
Hezbollah al-Hijaz began their terrorist activities in Saudi Arabia early on, when they blew up the facilities of Sadaf Petrochemical Company in Jubail, eastern Saudi Arabia in 1988. Just 1 year after their establishment, carrying out their major task in 1996 in the city of Al-Khobar in Saudi Arabia, the bombing of a residential complex. It resulted in the murder of 19 US soldiers and wounded 350 others. But the attempts of Hezbollah al-Hijaz to hit the security and stability of Saudi Arabia failed after the escape of their founder, Ahmad al-Mughassil, outside the borders of the country, to be later arrested in August 2015 after a pursuit that lasted more than 19 years. So, Nimr al-Nimr was the remaining option for Iran to export their violence plan.
أول ما وصل العوامية أنشأ مدرسته الدينية، وبدأ يتجمع حوله طلبة من المراهقين من 10 و12 و14 15 سنة، عدد قليل.
Nimr al-Nimr realized that the easiest way to execute his plans was setting up extremist religious ideas in the minds of the youth. He began by planting the Madawiyah thought in their minds, creating a base of fighters to use in the service of the Iranian violence plan. Angry and religious fanatics, it did not take much for Nimr to lure these young ones into his scheme. The opportunity revealed itself after the chaos in Bahrain, as Nimr al-Nimr organized riots on October the 3rd, 2011, in which demonstrators used automatic weapons and Molotov cocktails, resulting in the injury of 11 security men and 3 civilians, including 2 women, who were all transferred to the hospital for treatment. The Ministry of Interior issued a warning statement and called for stability. Nimr al-Nimr was then free to raise the stakes of danger, for he managed to create a gesture of sedition that might have been his only chance under the given circumstances to ignite a sectarian conflict, to carry on the plan of violence, and thus Al-Khomeini's plan of the great Shia revolution in Saudi Arabia.
احنا ما عندنا لا لدول اخرى ولا مرجعيات اخرى ولا لهذا الوطن. ما هو هذا الوطن؟ ولا انا لله لا للوطن. وقلت واكرر اذا يريدوا يحفروا مستنقع هنا سيكون اعظم من مستنقع البحرين.
These provocations affected the consequent demonstrations as they became more frequent, more violent, and even armed.
ولد إحساس، ولد حماس وهيجان بين الشباب، وبدأوا يتعدون على رجال الأمن، بدأوا يحرقون الدوريات، بدأوا يستخدمون المولوتوف، بدأوا يطلقون النار، وصاروا فعلا خارجين عن القانون بما تعني الكلمة.
The pace of events escalated to start indiscriminate killings in conjunction with the escalation of incitement in the name of religion in AlAwamiyah.
استخدام الدين في أي مشروع، سواء كان مشروعا سياسيا أو اجتماعيا أو ثقافيا، يمنح هذا المشروع شرعية ويجعل من هذا المشروع مشروعا مقدسا، لأنه ينتمي إلى السماء، ينتمي إلى الدين، ينتمي إلى العقيدة التي يحملها هذا الإنسان. وبالتالي البعض يحاول أن يشرعن كل مخططاته وكل أهدافه وكل مشاريعه باسم الدين، لأنه إذا رفض هذا الشخص قال أنا أتحرك باسم الدين وأتكلم باسم الدين وعندي فتوى من هذه الجهة أو من تلك الجهة.
Nimr al-Nimr used to ridicule everything, even heavenly beliefs like the Christian dogma.
ما يدير خده الايسر يقول اضربه كف على الايمن يقول له يدير له الايسر لا.
Not only that, but Nimr, who claimed to be demanding freedom of speech, was himself a dictator who did not allow anyone to criticize him.
وهكذا كل المعتقلين. زين؟ واجب النصرة. واجب النصرة.
When the opponent dared to oppose Nimr al-Nimr, thinking that the latter would respect the freedom of speech that he had said to believe in, the reward for that objection was Nimr's assistants beating that opponent to the pulp, to be a lesson for any other who thinks of objecting. That man almost died had he not been saved by some random people. Not only do they torture opponents, but they also justify vandalism and give fatwa, religious authorization, that allows sabotage and permit violence.
يعني والله شعل نار زين وحرق نار في إطار في حاوية وحرام.
كونك تخلق أصحاب قضايا مؤمنين جدا بقضيتهم ويرجعون إلى رمز كبير مثل الحسين وواقعة كربلاء، أنت بهالطريقة تلغي تماما تأنيب الضمير.
Tension continued to mount and violence was increasing in AlAwamiyah, causing further casualties of unknown shooters and attributing the crimes on the security forces. AlAwamiyah has thus become a hotspot for terrorism and a threat to the safety of the entire region that could not be ignored. For those living in AlAwamiyah, it was as if the sky had fallen on their heads. In January 2012, the Ministry of Interior announced a list of 23 wanted persons for their involvement in acts of terrorism and violence, which had turned the village into a center of terrorism, stopping daily life and frightening the peaceful inhabitants. The procedures of chasing those criminals commenced soon after, and some even turned themselves in. Meanwhile, AlAwamiyah had reached anarchy. The real intentions began to surface as Nimr al-Nimr found the perfect timing to launch the final calling for separation. Inciting to overthrow the regime, supporting the thought of the Iranian Shias, putting Iran in the forefront as the sole defender of the Shia rights in the world, declaring the whole world against them, and thus starting a sectarian war that set the whole kingdom on fire.
كل العالم تآمر على شعب البحرين دينيا وسياسيا وما شابه. كل دول العالم في شايفين دولة تدافع عن البحرين غير إيران. لن نسكت، لن نتراجع عن مقارعتهم ومقاومتهم إلى أسقاطهم.
And so all eyes were on Nimr al-Nimr. He was at the top of the wanted list and was arrested in July 2012. Nimr had tried to resist the arrest by initiating gunfire and colliding with one of the patrols in an attempt to escape. But the police forces dealt with the situation as was required. They managed to arrest him after he was hit, only in the thigh, despite being in the security forces' range of fire. On the other hand, there were some moderate Shia sheikhs who tried to assimilate the dispersion of the society that Nimr al-Nimr had destroyed with his extremist Iranian ideas. Those wise ones included a famous, beloved judge, Judge Muhammad al-Jirani, judge of the Department of Endowments and Inheritance in the Qatif Court. On July 14, 2012, after Nimr's arrest, his terrorist supporters from the list of 23 were determined to destroy everything. They began at Al-Qatif Court, attacking and burning it. The security forces tracked the wanted men from the list of 23, discovered their whereabouts in different areas in the village of AlAwamiyah, and managed to locate 3 of them by security camera when they were selling drugs, and arrested them all. They were Abdullah al-Sari, Hussein al-Rabi'a, and Muhammad al-Shakuri. 2 of the most wanted men, Mercy al-Rabba and Khalid al-Labad, who carried out the organization of the armed movement, were also monitored and located. They were in possession of advanced wireless communication equipment provided by Iranian logistical support to organize the attack on security headquarters and government departments. They were besieged. Khalid al-Labad was killed in an armed clash with the security forces in September 2012. Mercy al-Rabba was arrested later in June 2013. The year 2013 was full of violent incidents and violations against civilians and security personnel, leading to firearm shooting and thus the continuous falling of victims, both civilian and police. During that time, nothing was able to stop the bleeding in AlAwamiyah. While the members of Nimr's terrorist militia were falling one by one at the hands of the security forces, AlAwamiyah was a battlefield for armed confrontation between them and the armed terrorists. In early 2014, the terrorists shot a car belonging to the German embassy. The vehicle burned, but its occupants who were members of the diplomatic corps, luckily survived. AlAwamiyah was the epicenter of terrorism in the kingdom, but worst was yet to come. On Thursday, February the 21st, 2014, Sergeant Naif al-Kabrani and his colleague, Delay Majrashi, were martyred in an extensive security crackdown, which targeted some of the wanted terrorists from the list of 23. 2 other security personnel were wounded, and 2 wanted terrorists were killed. The youngest son of Naif al-Kabrani was admitted to the hospital due to diabetic coma caused by the news of the martyrdom of his father.
أنا تفاجأت وحسيت كذا يعني بحزن وكنت تعبان وبعدين رحت المستشفى وبعدين لما رحت المقبرة ما قدرت أروح أدفن أبوي. آخر يوم شفته لما كنت نايم سلم علي وبعدين أعطاني سيارة. بعدين كلم أمي لحالة وقال لها الأولاد في أمانتك. بعدين راح.
In this era, societies have been plagued by extremist groups exercising terrorism and violence under religious and political titles. But religion disowns terrorism and violence, for they destroy lands and countries. This was the opening statement in a petition signed by a group of well-known Shia sheikhs and imams in the regions of Al-Qatif, where AlAwamiyah is located. A petition to renounce the carrying of arms and to declare their solidarity alongside the state, order and security.
Saudi Arabia's elderly King Abdullah died yesterday. It was pneumonia.
After the death of King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz and his succession by King Salman bin Abdulaziz, the return of peace and security to the citizens of AlAwamiyah was a top priority to the new Saudi administration. But the challenges it faced left no room for achieving these goals, and the events went on escalating.
Muhammad is now free. He chose to be a shield for worshippers, for his comrades to return safely to their mother's embrace, and left my side forever.
This is how Shiite human rights writer and member of the Shura Council, Kawfa al-Arbash, laments the loss of her 18-year-old son. He and 2 of his cousins have been martyred stopping a suicide bomber from blowing himself up on the inside of the Shiite mosque, Imam al-Hussein, in the Anud district in Dammam city. ISIS had declared their responsibility for that attack, a scene that reflects the goal ISIS and Iran strive to accomplish, which is to create sedition and sectarianism in Saudi Arabia.
محمد ابني ما كان الولد اللي مستعد انه يستغني عن الحياة بسهولة. كان نابض بالحياة، كان محب للحياة، ولد رياضي، مثقف، قارئ، واعي. ما كان بالسهولة انه يرمي الحياة عرض الحائط ويستشهد بالطريقة البطولية هذه إلا من أجل فكرة أضخم من كذا، فكرة أكبر من الحياة، اللي هي فكرة السلام والتعايش وحب الآخر، فكرة الحب.
The Ministry of Interior announced the ratification of the death sentence of 47 terrorists that have been arrested in the years 2012 to 2015. Only 2 of them are Shia, including Nimr al-Nimr, the main instigator of terrorism in the eastern region and the leader of dens of darkness in AlAwamiyah. The rest of those sentenced to death belong to the Sunni sect and to ISIS terrorist militia. Nimr was prosecuted for various charges: organizing and financing a terrorist cell, calling to overthrow the regime, and incitement to murder. He admitted all his crimes in the trial, and the court announced the subsequent execution of the death sentence on January 2nd, 2016.
وأتيحت له فرصة الدفاع عن نفسه، وأعطي يعني الحرية الكاملة في الدفاع عن نفسه، وأعطي أيضا الحق الاستعانة بمحامي، ورغب في أن يتوكل عنه شقيقه محمد، ووكل عنه أيضا، ووكل أيضا محامي آخر من قرابته. أتاحت له المحكمة هذا الأمر، وهو أقر بجميع ما نسب إليه تحقيقا أثناء المحاكمة. هذه المحاكمة يحضرها، هي محاكمة علنية مفتوحة، يحضرها أصحاب الشأن وذوي المتهمين، ويحضرها أيضا بعض رجال الصحافة، ويحضرها أيضا بعض المنظمات الحقوقية الداخلية والدولية، منظمة حقوق الإنسان وجمعية حقوق الإنسان وجمعية حقوق الإنسان الأوروبية، أيضا فيما ذكر لي من أيضا قضاة المحكمة.
The execution of Nimr al-Nimr aroused the Iranian regime's fury, for he was their hand in the kingdom, carrying out their criminal agenda. Indeed, he was so important to them that they named a street in the Iranian capital, Tehran, after him. The close relationship between al-Nimr and the Iranian regime was clear when Hassan Nasrallah, leader of Hezbollah in Lebanon, threatened, saying,
هذه الدماء المسفوكة ستكتب نهاية هذا النظام.
The supreme leader of the current Iranian revolution, Ali Khamenei, explicitly threatened Saudi politicians, governors and decision makers, saying,
تردیدی نداشته باشند سیاستگزاران و مجریان و سیاست سازان دولت سعودی تردید نکنند که این خون دامن اینا رو خواهد گرفت، پدرشون در میاره.
This was the signal of the supreme leader of the revolution in Iran to his inside agents to attack the Saudi embassy on January the 2nd, 2016 in the city of Tehran. His agent stormed the embassy and burned it, removing the Saudi flag and stealing what was in the building under the auspices of Iranian security, who didn't move a muscle. Meanwhile, other demonstrators attacked the Saudi consulate in the city of Mashhad, breaking furniture and smashing glass windows, some even looting its contents. Moreover, Saudi diplomats received a death threat from the besieged Iranian forces before leaving for Saudi Arabia. Serious precedents that no embassy in the world had ever seen. Saudi Arabia immediately cut off diplomatic relations with Iran at a press conference of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia on Sunday, January 3rd, 2016.
والمملكة في ظل هذه الحقائق تعلن عن قطع علاقاتها الدبلوماسية مع إيران.
In parallel with the attacks in Iran, terrorists waged war on police stations, killing police officers and spreading chaos all over the village. The season of retaliation started against the Grand Shia figures who called for moderation in the eastern region. It targeted Judge Muhammad al-Jirani, the one who was once attracted by the values of Nimr al-Nimr's religious school, Al-Hawza, in the Iranian city of Qum, before discovering that it was not a religious school, but in fact a tool for exporting al-Khamenei's revolution. He returned to Saudi Arabia in 1988 after only spending 2 years there. During the violence in AlAwamiyah, he was subjected to repeated attacks, the last of which was the burning of his residence and his car in the middle of the night. A response to his rejection of terrorism and his standing by the people of the region.
الشيعة العالم يخمسون منذ القدم ليس من الآن.
معروف نعم.
ويدفعون الخمس عادة إلى مرجع التقليد، سواء كان في النجف كان في النجف أو في مدينة قوم أو في لبنان أو غيرها من الدول الثانية. ومنذ القدم جرت هذه السيرة عليه. كنا نتمنى من وكلاء المراجع في بقية المناطق وبالخصوص في القطيف بأن الخمس يصرف لأهالي المنطقة ولفقراء البلد ولا مرضى البلد ولا المحتاجين في البلد، لا يذهب لا إلى إيران ولا يذهب إلى العراق ولا يذهب إلى لبنان. وكنا نقول لهم بأن هذا التصرف بلادنا أحوج بها من غيرها.
This was a declaration of war to the Iranian regime, because this would prevent the arrival of funds donated by the Shia of the eastern region to Iran. A total sum of the fifth of that income. Therefore, Iran immediately issued a fatwa, a religious authorization, and a direct order to kill Sheikh al-Jirani, and of course, entrusted that to Nimr al-Nimr's terrorist cell. 3 terrorists, Abdullah al-Darwish, Mazen al-Khuba, and Mustafa al-Sawan, monitored the movements of Sheikh al-Jirani from and to his residence on the island of Tarut near AlAwamiyah. A plan for his abduction began on Tuesday morning, December 13th, 2016.
طلع من البيت كالعادة، بيشغل سيارته تسخن ويرجع البيت حق ياخذ أغراضه الشخصية ويتجه للعمل. مسكوا المختطفين وقام ينادي بصوت عالي على زوجته. سمعت النداء، طلت من النافذة، شافت أشخاص يمسكوه بالقوة. لما نزلت من الطابق الثاني بتنزل تفتح الباب تشوف زوجها، ما لقيت شيء، لقيت أغراضه متنثرة على الأرض، ولا في أي أحد ولا في أثر للسيارة. مجرد شافت ذي الأشياء اتصلت بشرطة المنطقة.
The security forces exerted great efforts to catch the perpetrators of the kidnapping. The 3 terrorists responsible for the Sheikh's surveillance were arrested, and 3 others were identified. Ali al-Hamad, Mohammed al-Amar, and Maitham al-Qadeh. A reward of 1 million Saudi riyals, $266,000 was allocated for information about any of them. The security forces revealed the last of Nimr's terrorist cell in AlAwamiyah. It was located in the center of the village, a place called Al-Musawara, one of the village's oldest neighborhoods, which was abandoned by most of its inhabitants because its buildings were old and impending to fall.
المسورة أكثر أهاليها تركوها وبنوا لهم في الأحياء الجديدة مثل حي الجميمة وحي المنيرة وحي العمارة، بنوا لهم أماكن سكنية. فاستغلوا الإرهابيين البيوت المهجورة واستطاعوا أن يسكنوا فيها. طبعا أهاليها غير راضين بذلك.
The neighborhood was monitored. A large number of terrorists were spotted inside. But that area consists of old houses which are separated by very narrow alleys, making it impossible for cars to come through, making it thus a safe haven and an outlet for launching repeated terrorist attacks. The Saudi government had put forth an ambitious plan to transform Al-Musawara from a shanty neighborhood into a service area that provides jobs for young people in the eastern region, and even raise it to become an exemplary urban model in the eastern province. This development project was announced in early 2017. After the measures taken by the Saudi government and announcing the development of the neighborhood, terrorists felt the siege tighten and that the end was very near. They tried to hinder the project after the government entrusted the office of engineer Nabi al-Brahim to surveys, inventory and evaluation of real estate in the neighborhood in preparation for financial compensation to realtors. The procedures were going normally. Engineer Nabi Al-Brahim, the office director, responsible for compensating real estate owners in the neighborhood development project, became a target for terrorists. They went further, burning his house and trying to kidnap him. He was shot as he resisted. The Saudi government was still determined to complete the procedures of compensating property owners, which exceeded 750 million Saudi riyals, $200 million.
هو بيتنا مساحته 85 متر مربع، وعوضتنا الدولة الحمد لله بمبلغ جيد. استطعنا فيه بشراء أرض في دانة الرامس، وهو المبلغ 1,006,000 ريال. فلو أنا مثلا عرضت في السوق هذا المبنى يعني بيجيب له مبلغ أكثر مبلغ 300,000 ريال، لو 400,000 ريال بالكثير.
The demolition process of Al-Musawara began in preparation for the construction project. However, the terrorists decided to defend their last stronghold and attacked the construction sites. On May 16, 2017, the attacks resulted in the death of a soldier and a boy, wounding 5 others as well after an RPG attack. A large group of Shia sheikhs in the village of AlAwamiyah issued a petition rejecting the use of weapons against the state, condemning the events in Al-Musawara and the disruption of the development process in the neighborhood. The petition was signed by more than 800 religious and social figures.
كان هذا الوضع الذي فيه كثير من الاحتقان غير مقبول، فاجتمعت الكلمة وتوحدت الآراء من كل هذه الأطياف أن تستصدر بيانا تشجب فيه ما يحدث في داخلها.
Terrorists went on with their plans, thinking that they could secure their hiding place, thinking that the government would amend the project. But little did they know, it was the beginning of the end. After all peaceful attempts for the terrorists to surrender had failed, the decision was made to completely clear the neighborhood first and then complete the project, starting with the evacuation of the residents, sending them to safe houses outside the area. The raid on the neighborhood began with an expanded campaign of special police forces. The survey was conducted in alleys and narrow streets to begin the last confrontation with the terrorists, who use all kinds of weapons against the police forces. They turned Al-Musawara into a war zone, and the police operations resulted in the detection of 2 manufacturing sites for bombs and weapons inside a house in that neighborhood, where the terrorists were held up before they were eliminated. These scenes are a mere representation of the damage and destruction that has befallen the area at the hands of the terrorists. After the cleansing of the neighborhood in preparation for the start of construction, the people were finally able to sigh relief. One of the 23 wanted terrorists, Salman al-Faraj, visited his house in AlAwamiyah repeatedly in discretion, but he was besieged with his brother Zaki al-Faraj, who was also on the same wanted list. The latter created an armed clash with the police, leading to the martyrdom of Sergeant Khalid al-Samati, the death of the terrorist Salman al-Faraj, and his own arrest. Through that arrest, one of the worst crimes committed was revealed to write the saddest chapter in the history of the entire eastern region: the murder of the judge Al-Jarani after his abduction and torture. The honorable judge was shot and buried in Salhiya, an area which consists of a group of vast farms. Immediately after that discovery, the security forces surveyed more than 2 million square meters until they reached the place where the terrorists had buried the judge. The corpse was in a state of decomposition, and after DNA analysis, it was confirmed that the body was, in fact, that of Judge Al-Jarani.
إن كنتم تريدون إخفاء صوت أبي فصوت أبي لن يختفي لأنه صوت الحق. أبي هو الرجل والبطل والشهيد الذي حافظ على دينه ووطنه.
وهذا حبيبي ما ينرفع إلا على
Muhammad AlAwamiyah, one of the wanted terrorists, raises his gun, saying that the gun he holds is aimed at the enemies of Islam and the enemies of the people of the house, meaning relatives of Prophet Muhammad. This is the idea planted by the Iranian regime in the minds of its followers, to consider whoever is against them is an enemy of Islam who must be killed. These ideas of terrorism and their subsequent actions that Saudi Arabia is fighting against had their consequences spread to reach the Iranian people, who have rejected the interference of their own mullahs, highest-ranking Shia sheikhs in Iran, in the affairs of Arab countries, rejecting as well their financing of terrorists, which reaches $6 billion annually, according to the United Nations.
Well, I think the expenditures of Iran regionally, whether supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon, whether supporting all these militias in Syria, or the Houthis, or subversion in Iraq, or terrorist attacks throughout the world, are part of its foreign policy. Its foreign policy is an imperialist foreign policy, an aggressive foreign policy that seeks to project its power and to control as much as it can of the region and beyond, to exert its power. So obviously the people that are doing this, the ruling elite of the Revolutionary Guard and of the mullahs, they don't care very much about the poor in Iran. They care about power inside Iran and power outside of Iran. So the fact that there are hungry Iranians or starving Iranians or oppressed Iranians doesn't enter into the picture for them. They are a callous elite which wants power. They want to hold on to power inside, and they want to have as much power as they can in the region for imperial, grandiose reasons.
فاحنا عشنا في من عهد الملك عبد العزيز طيب الله تراه إلى عهد سلمان القطيف، لهم الأمن والأمان بحرياتهم في دينهم، في عقيدتهم، في حسينياتهم، في مساجدنا، في حرياتنا، ما في تمييز بين شخص وشخص ثاني.
العوامية برجالاتها، بمثقفيها، بعلمائها، بمخلصيها سوف تنهض من جديد.
حتما سنشهد إن شاء الله في المستقبل المخطط الذي تحدثت عنه الجهات المعنية في تطوير العوامية، وإن شاء الله سنرى قريبا المشاريع الإنمائية.
أمنيتي الحقيقية أن احنا نكتشف أن خطاب الكراهية هو أخطر مهدد للمجتمعات الإنسانية، أكبر مهدد للأوطان. ما آمله أن احنا حقيقة نقوم على منطلق الحب والتعايش والتسامح مع الآخر ومع أنفسنا أيضا، مع كل ما يحيطنا من اختلافات، لأن الحياة عبارة عن علبة ألوان. إذا صارت فقط مجرد لون واحد، إيش قد الحياة بتكون مملة. سعادة الحياة أو جمال الحياة بالتعدد والاختلاف والتنوع.
King Salman bin Abdulaziz received the Al-Jirani family and ordered them a house as a replacement for the one that was burned by terrorists. He also ordered the naming of one of the most important streets in Al-Qatif as the name of Judge al-Jirani to commemorate his heroism. The sacrifices of the security forces in the kingdom and the support of the citizens marked the sincere desire to reject all forms of violence and terrorism, as well as to give and be given the right to a decent life on the basis of citizenship and preservation of human rights. This was the goal that everyone in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia sought. This is the truth behind AlAwamiyah. The following are words of Judge al-Jirani, his message to the world.
بأن هذا الإرهاب سوف ينتهي، يعني الذي يبقى على باطل سوف ينتهي، لأن للباطل جولة وللحق دولة.